Welcome back to the Bold Podcast. I'm Todd Birch, your guide on this exciting journey of personal growth and leadership, where my guests and I will share personal stories from our transformational journeys of how small changes can lead to massive results. You'll discover tips on overcoming obstacles, setting and achieving goals, building lasting habits, living a happy, healthy, and positive life, and so much more. If you're ready to cultivate a growth mindset and become the best version of yourself, then let's ignite your growth today. On today's episode, we're thrilled to welcome Jason Winkler, president of Summit Construction, a commercial construction management firm based in Akron, Ohio. Jason has a deep passion for mentoring and employee development, which drives his leadership style. Growing up in Barberton, Ohio, he honed his competitive spirit through sports and learned the value of hard work from his parents. After earning a civil engineering degree and playing baseball at the University of Akron, Jason has built a successful career focused on building relationships, giving back to the community, and growing businesses. Listeners, this is going to be so good. I'm so excited for this conversation. Please welcome Jason Winkler to the show. Jason, so good to see you, my friend. Welcome to the Bold Podcast.
Thanks, Todd, man. I'm pumped to be here. I've been looking forward to this and following as you start this this journey down the podcasting world. It's been it's fun to watch so far.
Yeah, and it's cool because you and I are like swapping podcasts, right?
Yeah, right.
Like
right.
you've provided me some really great recommendations that are now my staples. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that hopefully mine has become part of yours.
It has. We're getting in our routine, right? These last couple of years that we've gotten to know each other. And,
yeah.
You know, it all started with books, right? Mm-hmm. And continuous learning, this kind of lifestyle. And then, you know, the last couple of years, the podcasts start to really take off. And it's something that you can do as you're driving or you're multitasking or whatnot. And I've certainly got into it.
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
I know that's our connection too, right? When we first met, it was kind of how we hit it off. And
right.
But it's all about growth. And that's what you're doing here. That's why I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
Following your journey.
Well, and we could kick off with that, just how we got to know each other. So we went through Leadership Akron, class 39 together and connected, not really during the class, but after the class. Right. And now we meet, we're, I'd say, really good friends, meet every month for breakfast, and we get off our island, you know, as two business owners running a business, leaders in the community, and we just talk, share, vent if we have to. But it's really important to have that tribe. And I just posted about this the other day. It can get really lonely. I don't want to say at the top because it sounds so elite, but let's be honest, you are. I mean, you are the president of Summit Construction Company, and I run Evolve Marketing, and it can be lonely up there. And we all need to have people that we can confide in and have a safe space that we can have an open conversation and just talk, right? Mm-hmm. Our wives, you know, your spouses or your partners, they don't want to hear about it, honestly. Right. You know, the first couple of years, sure, they'll oblige and say, whatever, Todd, next. But now you need somebody that can relate and have that. And I think that's how you and I just bonded. And we'll get into it, but we have a lot. Our stories are very, very similar.
Right. No, and I think that's what, I know, I try to live my life that way, to surround yourself with good people and people that think like you, that can challenge you. And I think when we met, you know, we're just kind of talking about our lives a little bit and what your struggles are, what I'm struggling with personally and professionally. And you start saying, wow, okay, I like your style, right? Yeah. And then one thing leads to another. We have breakfast and we get together, and then, but you got to surround yourself with people. I mean, that's, you know, you mentioned in the opening about like my parents and my family, my brothers. Like, without them, I'm not here. So you have to surround yourself with good people. So professionally, I always think that way. But then personally and just who I am. And I think that's the root of our relationship is, you know, someone that thinks like you and you're a good person and that we can bounce ideas, we can challenge each other. Here's how I'm growing. Here's what you're, you know, some of the journaling that we've talked about. I mean, that's in the last year is really grown me personally. And that's credit to you. And
took a while.
It did.
And that's okay. We talk a lot about that on the show. Like, you just have to start.
Right.
And you'll fail. and you got to get back up, right?
That's a whole nother conversation
Right.
there too. Failure is really growth.
Yeah, that's my next episode.
Trying to tell either guys at our company or even my daughters, right? It's okay to fail, right? You need failure. You need to really learn from that though, but that's part of the growth process. And it feels like our breakfast, right? Like our conversations, we're going down a couple rabbit holes here, and it kind of energizes me. Every time we have breakfast, I always walk away a little bit more refreshed and energized.
But that's what you want. You want to, and I think the key is really, they say at work, right? Surround yourself with great people and people potentially better than you, smarter than you, that will challenge you. And that's great. But I'm talking here about building a tribe of support outside of work.
Right.
And that's what you and I have, and I have with some others and you as well. So I think that's kind of the lesson here is just to get off the island. You know, and this is the type of relationship that you can have. Right. Find somebody like-minded, has the same core values, same work ethic. You'll be much better off.
I've heard it like categorized as like your personal board of directors, and I think that's
interesting.
I don't know. I try to look at it that way sometimes. You have a different skill set and a different way of thinking, and I have other relationships that look at things differently. And if you couple that together to make your personal kind of board, I think that's a good balance to growth and challenge. And you talk about tribe, I talk about like this personal board of directors.
Yeah.
If you want to kind of equate it to business.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Same concept, same kind of fundamentals to that, for sure.
Cool. Well, I think we're touching on all the different things.
I know. How far do we want to dive into each of those?
That's the intro. All right. But I think it's important to start from the top, right? So you and I are friends and we've talked a lot of different things, and I have a lot of entrepreneurs on the show, which is awesome. And this is about leadership and growth and taking risks. What I love, your story is a little bit different, although it's very similar, you and I, but it's a little bit different in that you didn't start a business. You came in and took over a business. Right. And I love it. To me, I don't know, you're such a humble guy, you probably won't like it, but to me, it's like a Good Will Hunting story. You
like those apples.
You weren't a janitor like I was, but so, here you are, a project manager, right? At this same company, Summit Construction. Yeah. And you do this for a couple of years, you leave, try something else, then you get a call. And now you're running Summit Construction, $130 million company. Yeah. You're the president of this company. 60 plus employees you're responsible for. So take our listeners through, how does something like that happen? Because I think it's important for people to hear this and say, it could happen to anybody, right? But what was that journey like?
It's overwhelming when you think of it that way, right? Like because I think I try to really focus on the blocking and tackling and just doing our jobs. And if we do that, the results will take care of themselves. But, for me, it always goes back to hard work. And that's, again, referencing my parents and my family and the way I was raised in Barberton. And this has been proven, or at least it's given me some success, because when you work hard and you're raised that way, that things aren't just given to you, that goes a long way, right? And you referenced, when I was at Summit Construction in the early 2000s, right out of college, and I had a chance to go work for a big developer doing real estate across the country. I got a chance to meet the CEO of that company. And one of the things that struck that conversation was the fact that I was from a blue collar family and we worked hard and we mowed lawns to, save up money to buy tennis shoes. And those principles are what I live and breathe off of every day. And I think nothing is handed to us, so we got to work hard for things. And I think if you live by those values, the good things will happen. Also, relationships. Relationships are everything, and the timing of meeting different people. Again, I've mentioned, forming a relationship with the CEO of that company. It's the same thing with the founder of Summit Construction. I formed a great relationship with him and built trust, and he had the trust in me to come back and be part of his succession plan. But it's all relationships, it's people. We have a great business with great people. And I feel blessed just to be along for the ride, right? Like I'm in a position where I have influence over the company, but without the great people we have. So it goes back to surrounding yourself with good people. At our company, we have great people. So that's kind of that transition. So yeah, again, going back to the size of our company and the growth, those are just results. We're really focused on building solid relationships, really focusing on accountability, doing the right thing. When we tell a client we're going to do something, we have to do it, and hold our subcontractors and our relationships accountable. So yeah, that's a bit of the story going from PM to present.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm sure there was a lot in between there. What kind of time span are we talking about? 5-7 years?
For Summit specifically, so
from project manager to.
So when I was in the early 2000s as a project manager, then I left. It wasn't that I left to go to a competitor. It was just a different opportunity to learn different skills.
Sure.
And I kept a great relationship with Summit Construction.
Right. And
that was in 2007. So right before the recession. So that's a whole nother story of being naive and not knowing how bad the recession was. And so I learned a lot there, again, about relationships and how the business worked. So then I came back to Summit, and then a couple partners in 2015, we were part of the succession plan for the founder who founded Summit in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So from 2015 to where we are today, again, we've tripled in size and tripled the amount of employees. And yeah, so that's a bit of the timing.
Okay. And you've been there how long now, or as president?
9 years.
9 years. Wow.
Okay. I mean, that is crazy to think about.
We were just talking about the days.
Right.
And the years, right? Days slow, years fast.
Right. The days are long, right? Right. I don't know who to give credit for that quote, but the days are long, but the years, no, the opposite, right?
Right. Days are long, years are fast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Time flies. Well, I mean, it's a incredible story, and it's funny, like, I think about myself. I started this company, Evolve Marketing, and I'm in a position now where I'm thinking about my next act, and choosing a person to kind of take the reign. And I'm trying to put myself in the owner's shoes at Summit Construction, and I see it, like, meeting you. I'm like, yeah, you seem like the kind of guy that would be perfect. But that you say, yeah, building relationships and trust. That doesn't happen overnight, right?
No.
For someone to say, hey, I'm going to hand you the keys to the business that I built, that says a lot about you, your character, and that hard work ethic. So obviously you impressed him to a degree that he felt that comfortable to bring you in, and some others in a team, to run this thing. And I know that's not easy to do.
No, and that was the biggest risk, right? So I'm working for this big publicly traded company and doing fine. I was traveling a lot, so it was just timing is everything.
It is.
So I just had my second daughter, and traveling a lot, so it's like I felt the need to be at home a little bit more. And that's when the founder had reached out, and we started talking about potentially coming back. And the biggest risk and the biggest thing that I was concerned with were the people there. Would they trust me? Would they respect me? And, some of these people I worked with in the early 2000s when I was there, and that's the beauty of the company we still have today. We have guys that have been there over 20 years and that are still as loyal as the day is long. And, but that was a concern for me, right? Would they accept me back into this role? And that took a while to build that trust, but that was a huge concern on my end to make man, this could backfire, right? I'm leaving this great job and I'm growing there and a lot of opportunity, but it was something to really grow roots and make my own, to really take on that entrepreneurial spirit. Luckily, they accepted me back, and we formed great relationships. And today, that's where I try to spend most of my time. I mean, I really try to. We're a people business, so I'm trying to develop our teams where we're mentoring the young people. How do I continue to talk and mentor our young people and be a part of it? We have a big presence in Columbus, and I spent a couple days this week down in Columbus just going to see the guys, right? There's a couple new team members down in our Columbus office that I haven't spent much time with, so got to go to their projects and see them. And that's really where a passion is too, right? That's another mentoring, and really, because succession planning is all about, like, right now I'm thinking about, the next 10, 15 years, right? When I try to step away from the company and who's going to be stepping in there. So I really, really try to focus on a lot of time of our existing people, but then finding new people that are the right fit for our culture that can balance us out. So
right. And it's all about, it's amazing to me. I know you mentioned the comments, I think last time we had breakfast, about you really try to meet with all the candidates that you're recruiting as much. And obviously Columbus, you know, that can be a challenge, but 90% you meet with.
I try to.
And that's, I think that's a lot, you know, and I think it's a credit to the longevity and the type of people that you have, right? To be able to have that initial conversation, and for the candidate to say, wow, the president of the company is taking time out to meet with me. Mm-hmm. So right away, I have a good indication of what the culture's like, what it's going to be like to work for this company. So I think that's cool. I don't know how you do it from time wise. I'm sure you wear a lot of hats, a lot of responsibility, but so
it's a balance, right?
Yeah, the balance.
And I don't meet with everyone, right? I wish I could, because it's that important, right? We're in a people business, and you know, like our superintendents and project managers, these folks that are on our project sites, they're the front line to clients, right? They got to like them, and they got to communicate well for us to build those relationships with the clients. So it's so important of who we are as our people. So if I can spend more time there, I want to. But it's also having the trust in the rest of the team members to handle the finances, handle the accountability on other projects, so that I can spend more time with the people and even our clients. I love spending time with the clients and building those relationships, or architects and engineers, subcontractors. It's just, again, relationships.
Yeah, it's funny. You keep saying it's a people business, and I guess I wouldn't think a construction business is a people business. You know, it surprises me, but as you talk through it, there are a lot of different people in different roles. And I guess it does make sense.
You know, and what we do, you got to obviously know construction. You got to you have a certain skill set and a certain knowledge level on the technical side, right? That's a piece of it. But a lot of times, working with a designer, that they know the equations, they design it, so we take that design, and then we go to subcontractors. So we have to communicate that to their subs to say, okay, you got to pour this concrete or run this electrical. So that's communication. And then when it comes time to start the work, you got to communicate when this sub's going to start, and then you got to keep the client up to date. Then you got to work with the arc. So it's just all communication. Now we do have some self-perform, where we'll have some carpenters and laborers that are actually, you know, performing, you know, physical tasks and whatnot. Right. But most everything else is being organized and communicating and
project management.
Project management.
Where you started.
Absolutely, and that's my bread and butter. That's what I love. But it's so much communication and a trust, right? And over time, building trust with the partners.
I mean, they're big projects. They could last a year, 2 years, right?
Oh yeah, we have a Lancaster High School that's a 4-year project.
Oh wow,
right.
That's
so some of these big schools that we're working on are multi-year, and that's a challenge in itself, right? The beauty of why I got into construction, because it's always different. Right? I can go to job sites. I'm in the office. It's. But you get some of these bigger projects, and these guys can be on there a long time, and you can worry about burnout and things of that nature. So it's like everything else, balancing act.
Yeah. And your focus, EDS, you said it, EDS and meds.
So. EDS and meds. Yeah, we do a lot of healthcare, a lot of schools, and really try to focus on those two. And then there's always relationships and opportunistic, but we really try to focus on those two.
Yeah, that's cool. So let's go back to the humble beginnings. Like I said, you and I have a lot in common. You grew up in Barberton. I grew up in Goodyear Heights, two very blue-collar, middle-class neighborhoods, right? Our families, I think, had similar core values, hard work ethic. I've mentioned it on the podcast several times. Both my parents had 2 jobs, as long as I can remember. And like you, I was mowing lawns, shoveling drives to get that extra money. And then I peddled newspapers eventually, and paperboy. And that's how you learn. And you know, it's hard today. You have 3 girls, and I have 2 kids. And how do you, and I've listened to other people on shows, like how do you teach your kids that resilience when all we're trying to do, right, is just make it easy for them and give them the things that we didn't have.
Right.
And I hear a lot of people talking about that, and in people that are very successful, they definitely have the means, right? They could give their kids everything that they want.
Right.
But being intentional and taking a step back and saying, well, if you don't build resilience, if you don't fail, right? If you're just handed the silver spoon, what's your life going to be like? And when you really start to get out there, are you going to be scared? Are you going to be afraid? Not take risks, and just learn that it does take hard work. And yeah, you see, social media, these influencers. Yeah, you have one video goes viral, and next thing you know, you're singing for Journey, doing a tour around the world. That doesn't happen to everybody, right? That's just that's kind of like being an athlete. It's 1 in a million chance lottery, but I think it is important. I've been thinking a lot about that. Like, how do I instill these things in my daughter, as opposed to just the easy way and just buying her whatever she wants? You and I had to, if we wanted those nice spikes or those cool batting gloves, that had the colors and the wristbands, I had to save up. Yeah. And, looking back, like, I appreciated that stuff. Like, you better believe I took care of it and had it for years. Right. So I don't know. I think this is a challenge, even for people, that are maybe in a middle role, that maybe don't have the means of some of these, big successful people, but it's a different mindset that I think is going to be a problem here in the next 10, 15 years, where you don't have these kids that have come from earning their keep, earning their stripes, and failing and building resilience. I don't know. Is there something that you're doing with your girls?
Oh my gosh. Right. So when you figure it out, please let me know, because it's one of my biggest concerns. Okay. So for sure. Right. Like you said, we have similar backgrounds, blue collar, work hard, and now we're doing okay for ourselves. Right. And our kids, typically if they want something, or we go to the store or whatnot, or we go on a trip, they're, luckily we have the ability to, buy them souvenirs. But my wife and I talk about it a lot, and we try to, because she came from a blue collar background as well, and a lot of the same values and whatnot. So I think really talking to them, right, and letting them know that, yeah, you may have the means to buy that or have that, or the luxury to go on an extra trip or do whatever, but not everyone does. And you gotta work hard in this world. And I think as my daughters are starting to get into some sports and some activities and whatnot, now it's a time where you got to work hard. Nothing is given to you. And I think that's where some of those values, and that at least I'm trying, but I'm experimenting every day. And sometimes it almost feels like work can be easy, and mentoring people, and I have such passion that I'm comfortable there. But when it comes to some of these, am I doing the right thing as a parent, and not giving them too much, and I certainly don't want them to be entitled. Right. Like I'm really fearful of that. And I think the way to do that is to talk to them and really like make it a priority to express that, like, your mom and we worked really hard, and here's some of the examples of how we worked hard to get to the point where we're at, where we can afford a house and we can afford, nice cars and things of that nature, or just any car. Right. So it's talking to them, but again, I'm experimenting every day and figuring it out. And that's where, go back to that mindset of continuous improvement. It's one of the levels of my life, or areas of parenting, and that I'm not 100% confident I'm doing the right thing, but I'm trying to figure out the right way, because I think we want the same goals. We want them to be successful and able to be resilient and make decisions, and not just have everything handed to them. Right. And I think that's another touch on our company. And when young employees mess up, that same mindset that it's okay, right? You got to learn from it, though. Not every project's going to be just handed to you on a platter and successful. Right. You're going to have a subcontractor or someone, or a challenging owner that's, and you got to figure out how to get through that. And it's part of your learning. It's part of your adapting. And I think the more that we go through those situations, the better we'll be. And if you have the right mindset, right? But I'm also an internal optimist that I want everyone to look at situations like this is a learning experience. Even though this subcontractor or whatever situation, it's really hard and they're difficult and you're pulling your hair out. Right. But can you step back for a minute and look at it as a positive experience? So I think that's part of building that resilience, like you said. And I think that's important, whether you're talking about parenting or companies. And I'm sure you deal with it too on the marketing side, and your company. Not everything you guys are getting into is going to go as planned.
It never does. Because we're really dealing with technology and the web.
Right.
There's always something. And when we build a website redesign project, could be a year-long project. Just like your construction projects, anything that goes over a couple months, there's so much life that happens and so many people and lives that are involved in that. Something's going to happen. You're going to have somebody that you worked with that leaves that job and goes somewhere else. Maybe one of your own employees. You're going to have somebody that's going to have a baby, somebody that's going to get sick, right? There's just going to be these things that you can kind of plan for. And then there's going to be the curveballs. You had no idea they were coming, right? And a good curveball. Those are hard to hit, hard to plan for, right? So it is difficult, but I think like you, and it sounds like what you've done for your company is build this culture and this mindset of failing fast, failing forward, embracing failure. But, owning up, learning from it, and then moving on, but not being afraid to do so, not coming down. And I love how you said just really having that optimistic, positive spirit. I think when people see that, and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, right?
Yeah, right.
And see you do the same thing. And I tell my team all the time, hey, that's my bad. That was my mistake. I own it. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to move on. I'm not perfect, and I'm not sitting up here in this golden office just thinking that I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I'm continually learning and improving. And I think it all starts at the top.
You got to show them.
You set that tone, and it just trickles down, and hopefully they see that. Yeah,
they definitely do. And I think you have to, no one's perfect, and you got to show your vulnerability and how when you mess up, like I make bad decisions all the time and I got to own them. Right. And people will see right through it if you don't.
Right. You got to
be
authentic.
If you make a bad decision, you start to try to blame other things, people will read right through that. And then you lose trust. Right. So you gotta own it. Now there is mistakes and failure out there that if it's laziness or you don't care, that's when you're doing the same thing, the same mistake.
Well,
then those are different conversations.
That's
but
a pattern.
If you're doing the right thing and you're trying to get better, and those are stuff that happens every day, and you need to fail, you need to learn, you need to grow in that way. So it's fun. But going back to your baseball reference, that's where, right, a great hitter hits a 300 batting average, right? That's good. Right. That's failing 7 times out of 10.
Right.
You learn to fail.
Right. I want to talk about your passion and your experience with sports.
Sure.
And specifically baseball. So I read in your bio, you talk about being, probably at a small town like Barberton, same with me in Goodyear Heights, being one of the best, right? You probably, not an ego, but, you're there and everyone's talking you up. Yeah, you're confident, right? Yeah. I don't know, did you get a scholarship at UA? So you get a scholarship at the University of Akron to go play ball. You get there.
Sure.
D1 school. And what happens?
Well, gosh, man, that starts, I got to go back to the beginning, right?
Oh, okay.
And, I have an older brother and I have a younger brother. So still to this day, I give them all the credit in the world for sports. And my dad and, we didn't have video games and phones and stuff. He's like, get outside and go play. And I was lucky enough to grow up in a neighborhood where we had a lot of kids. And so if it wasn't street football or baseball or wintertime tackle football in the snow, right, we were always out there playing. And my older brother, right, his friends are 2 years older than me. And, if I can hang with them, then as I grow and get around kids my age, I'm like, oh, this is easy. And then my younger brother benefited that way. I mean, he went on to play college sports and is now in the strength and conditioning world and successful in that sense. But I give it credit to my older brother and his friends to start, right? And then as you go through elementary school, middle school, and into high school. And then I was lucky enough to really find some really good friends in high school through sports and that kept us out of trouble. And I still talk to them every weekday. I'm still very close with 6 or 7 of them that live in different parts of the country. We still try to get together. But those guys, I have to give the credit. I mean, again, Friday night when you're in high school and we're preparing for a game or something like that, we're not out drinking and partying and stuff. I mean, we had our fun. Don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
We weren't innocent, but those guys kept us on the straight arrow and pushed each other, right? So giving those guys the credit and my brothers and my family enabled me to be, once high school came around, it was just how I was wired. And it's still kind of how I'm wired to, I'm very competitive and work hard. And a lot of those same traits come into the construction world and where I'm at today. So to your point, right, in high school, I was pretty successful in football and baseball. And once you go to college and it's Division I, right, then it's something that I never experienced before. Then you start to experience, well, wait, all these other people here are the best of their towns and the best. And then you got seniors and juniors that have been in college for a couple of years. So it was a rude awakening. I ended up redshirting my first year, and that was kind of planned. I knew there was a senior catcher at Akron when I signed to go there. But then it's, as time progressed, these are all the best of the best in their worlds, right? You come here. So it was really taught me early on that how to deal with failure and a little bit of struggle, right? I didn't get handed the job right away. So it taught me about hard work. I had to hit more. I had to do more. And like you said before, in balanced school, and I was really competitive in trying to get my engineering degree at the same time. It just taught me great fundamentals about hard work and discipline. And yeah, so that's my baseball stories. But it was, when we look at our company and we go to recruit people or we meet new people, if you have a sports background, military, and I mean, some of those competitive values that you learn through sports transfer to the real world. And I mean, it's just it's something that's still in me. There's something that gets me revved up every day. And I think we've hung out a couple of times, right? If we go and play cornhole, we can do whatever. Even my brothers, if we're going to dinner and my parents, we're in our 40s and whatnot, I'll push my brother out of the way to get to the restroom first, or if I'm going to sit there first. So it's just competitive. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of my background with baseball and how it translates to today.
That's cool. Yeah, I love. To me, it's a humbling story, right? You were humbled. And I've been through the same thing. I tell my wife, I'm fortunate to be very athletic, and I can pick something up very quickly. And I have a case of the just good enough syndrome, where I can get to a competitive level rather quickly. And then I want to go do more without having the training and really the time, right? The reps. And I go do, and I fail. I did it with racquetball. I did it with bodybuilding, breakdancing, just, you got to do the reps. You got to put in the work. For sure. Like Ryan Hawk always says, right?
Yes.
You got to do the work. And Malcolm Gladwell says it's the hours, right? Outliers.
10,000 hours, right?
You got to do it. So, but it's good to be humble, and that builds that character. It builds the resilience and lessons that, life lessons now that you've brought into your company, that helped you get where you're at, but now you're transcending that down to your employees. Right. So, and that's the beauty of it. I love that.
Yeah. And I didn't think about it back then. Right. But now it's these type of opportunities where I can kind of think back, and it's really all those people you surround yourself. I mean, that's full circle, this whole conversation. You're surrounding yourself with good people and people that'll challenge you and push you. And I didn't realize it, but that's what was happening in high school, right? Even when I got to college, and I formed good bonds and relationships there with guys that were able to push and think alike. And those are the roots of everything we're talking about here. Right. So, which is fun to think about, right? I don't often take a step back and think about this stuff. Right. So,
but it's about reflection. We talk a lot about that on this show, being mindful and taking a moment to reflect, whether that be through prayer or through a gratitude practice or through journaling.
Right.
Which I told you about several times, and you're like, dude, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
And eventually.
And I have been, and it's been great. And, we talk a lot, and it's kind of blurring the lines of all of our other conversations to this one, but getting up early, right? That's another fundamental that I learned early on. My dad was always a morning person, and we'd find ourselves going to breakfast, just him and I, early because we were the only two up, but being able to get up early and think and, carving out time, right? We talk like Atomic Habits and some of those type of things, or I've heard you talk Robin Schwarmer recently, right?
It's over there, the 5 a.m. club.
Right.
Own your morning, elevate your life.
That's exactly.
I mean, that's it.
I've tried to focus intentionally more on that lately, but I've always been a morning person, but I'm trying to really get a little bit more concrete habits early on.
Yeah. It's not just about being a morning person. It's about what do you do with your morning? Because my morning routine sucked for years. As much as I talk about and claim to be this really optimized person, I have this whole life optimization system, and I am pretty optimized. My morning routine sucked, and I recognized it. And I read Robin's book, The 5 a.m. Club, and honestly, I changed my morning routine. It's changed my life. That's amazing. I am not joking.
Right.
I am not joking. I used to get up, get right to my phone, and boom, that was it. Right. I was already hijacked at that moment. Right. Get right to work. Now I get up, 10, 15-minute walk, brisk walk in the morning, so I get some movement. Yep. I come back either outside on the patio or inside, and I'll have a couple minutes of, so basically it's my reflection time. So a little prayer, a little gratitude practice, and a little meditation. And then I'm getting some time. Then it allowed me to now take my daughter to school every day. I get a 7-minute commute, but it's 7 minutes that I'm getting some time with her.
Right.
I never had that before. And bonus, I'm helping my wife. I'm packing her lunch. I'm taking her to school. 2 things she's always done, and now she doesn't have to worry about it. So it's like the trifecta of wins. But had I not been cognizant and intentional about that, and really read Robin's book, it just resonated with me. And I said, this is the piece that's missing. Now I'm fully calibrated. And the mindset that you get into to start your day, they always say breakfast is the best meal of the day. Yeah. Well, having a morning routine, consistent and intentional morning routine will change your life, how you start your day. So sorry, I went on a little tangent, but I'm a huge fan.
Tip of the iceberg. You've just named 3 or 4 different things that's changed, and there's probably many more to that.
Yeah.
Right. Your energy level, just your clarity as you get to work, and you're not distracted. And you can go on and on about the value of it. And you and I've talked a lot about this. I'm trying to formalize that more and more. I'm experimenting with how my mornings go, but definitely staying away from electronics. Right. Getting some time to breathe and really just clearly think. And gratitude has been big. Right. I don't spend enough time really being grateful for the opportunities that I've been given, and the relationships, and the just everything, right? I can go on and on about that, but I still, that's not enough, right? I'm still very grateful. And I think that goes back to even raising your kids, right? To be grateful and be appreciative and be humble, I think are, again, you talk about core values of how you live your life. That's what I want to instill in my kids and even our employees, and that'll, I think, get rid of the entitlement and whatnot. But I know that I diverted from the morning routine, but I just, your energy, everything that comes from being up early and thinking clearly, I think more people should spend some time or more time on that for sure.
Yeah. And I love, my routine didn't happen overnight.
Right.
Like it took, like James Clear says, about 21 to 30 days. And I still have times, the weekends, I'm not good at it. Right. So I don't know why. It's different, because I have kind of a ritual going to work 5 days a week. So, I'm continually, and I love how you said experimenting, testing, iterating, right? Like, and everybody's going to be different. Some people have to go to work at a certain time. Some people have to get their kids ready, and depending on how many kids, and packing lunch and making sure they have their homework done and brush, you know what I mean? Like those are things that you have to do for other people, but everyone can take 5 minutes just to themselves. If you just start there, it could be just 5 minutes of gratitude, journaling, taking the dog for a walk, whatever, or listen to a podcast, just 5 minutes for you. And then you can start to build, and you'll see that compound.
Exercise is another big piece of morning routine, right? To try to fit in. Movement. And some people aren't, and I know you said you take a walk and whatnot, but trying to get, I think Matthew McConaughey years ago said he tries to break a sweat every day.
Yep.
And I think those are little simple things, but exercise is a big piece of a morning routine. Yeah. For sure. And I think expectations, this is something I struggled with too, right? That's why I like experimenting, because that's managing expectations. Because I got to a point where I was trying something new and it wasn't really working, and I would get discouraged. But if you think to yourself, and that's where I think more people can get use out of it, where it's like, okay, I'm going to experiment. This may work, it may not. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't. You just have to adjust and tweak it. And I would get frustrated if something wasn't working. right?
Well, and that goes back to your competitive nature,
right.
and that can be a killer too, right? As much as it can be a catalyst for success and help you push through, right? Dig in and keep moving forward. It can also hold you back, right? You can be your worst enemy, and it goes back to failure. I'm going to have it on the next episode. It's all about you can't beat up on yourself. Give yourself grace and be grateful and happy and celebrate that little win that you started, that you even thought, you took the advice about journaling. You said, okay, I'm going to consider this. I can see the benefits. I'm going to consider win. And then you do one time, win. And next thing you know, oh my gosh, now I'm journaling every other day or on the weekends or once a month. And it's a system, right? And it's building habits. Those things don't happen overnight. Learning to brush our teeth did not happen overnight.
Right.
Tying our shoes.
Love the concept, and I can talk for forever about this, but it's being strategic, and I love strategy, right? Like growing up, there was this game Risk, and it was like conquering the world, and there's all this strategy, and those types of things really rev me up. And I kind of look at my own life that way too, and that's the importance of getting up early, thinking clearly, and thinking what that day is going to entail and what the week, and being very intentional about the strategy for myself, where the company's at personally, and then being very detailed with that, right? When I get lazy and sloppy, that's when things fall through, right? Where I can't make one of my kids' sporting events, or where a commitment at work is lagging, or we didn't put our best foot forward. So it comes with upfront being very intentional. And again, it starts with the 5 a.m. club, right? Like I'm up early in order to get things in order, so then I can prioritize the day. But I'm always experimenting, right? This is another balance experiment. All these things are constantly in my head on prioritizing where's the best use of my time and what relationships need internally, externally, personally, what needs work. But if you're always on the go and reacting, you won't be able to strategize and prioritize where you need to be. So that's where the journaling and reflecting and taking time to really think, as I've gotten into this role and over the years and different advice, that's one thing, to get out of the weeds, be strategic. And I use that with the business, but also personally, right? I can feel when I'm out of balance. If I'm not exercising, I'm not perfect. I'd love to exercise every day. But when you have deadlines at work and things and sporting events and tournaments and whatever, so it's not perfect. But if I go a couple days without exercising or without part of my routine, I start to feel it. So I need to get back in balance. But you can't do all that if you're not organized and strategic about it. So
is it a gut check for you, or do you have a system, or is it the journal where you're being intentional, reflecting, notice you're like, oh man, I haven't exercised, or oh man, I've missed.
No, it's a gut. It's a gut.
Okay.
It's a feel. And to be honest, and you and I have talked about this as well. How do I formalize that a little bit more? And that's where I think some of the habits that I'm trying to create and be consistent with are just, they're not on paper. They're not anywhere. It's just, I know when I wake up in the morning, I'm not looking at my phone. I don't check emails typically until I get into the office, or I try to stay away from the electronics, but that's not written anywhere, right? That's just part of my habit. Right. So I'm trying to figure out how to formalize that more so I can stay on track. I don't have like a document where I'm tracking my workouts.
Right.
I feel like I need to sometimes. Yeah. So it's a bit of still a work in progress to try
experiment.
To, and it really is, but it's a gut check, going back to what you just said there, of I know when I feel out of balance.
Yeah. Well,
right. Good. Whether I'm not spending enough time with the family, but you got to be strategic. You got to check in on that. If you're not thinking that way, then you may not know you're out of balance. So spending that time to block it out. And again, I think and we've talked about this, you're more detailed and you have your formal plan with that, where other people, it's more that gut check.
And a lot of people that have been on the show, because I ask this question a lot, because I think it's really important, and I'm genuinely curious how other people's do it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think there's a silver bullet. If there was, there'd be a book on it, and there have been several good books on time management and things of that nature. And it's going to be the person, the season in life, their job. Everybody's very different, has unique situations. I think the key is just being intentional. So I love that you're even thinking about it, right? I think that's the first step, and not just going, because next thing you know, your kids are 15, 18, going into high school, going into college, and then you're like, oh crap. You can reflect on it, but you're probably going to have a whole lot of regrets.
Yep.
And
you got to step away.
What's important to you? That time you'll never get back, and time is the one thing you can't buy. So, yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong way. I think it's just being intentional.
Right. And that's how I look at it, because you can get in the weeds of whatever you're doing and keep your head down and go. And you're right. 20 years later, you're thinking to yourself, man, I should have taken a step back. And that's one thing I'm trying to continue to do more, is step back, right? And be grateful, but also what can we do? What can I do a little bit more strategically and different? I don't know, that step back, being intentional, is really important.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way that you frame that, stepping back, because to me, for me, it's pausing. Either way, right? You're reflecting. Let's be honest. That's just it. You're stopping. You're not reacting. Right.
Those are all relatives to the same kind of concept.
Right.
Sure.
And I think that takes time. I know certainly that wasn't the way that I was built. I had to change that. And I'm not perfect, but I've came a long way, and I've used tools, I've read books, podcasts, went through programs to help me get to that place. But you have such a calm demeanor ever since I met you. You just seem like just such a chill, relaxed guy. How do you ever get mad? Like, I can't imagine you getting upset or mad. So, but the question, like, were you always this way, or have you gone through a program? Have you gone through some changes?
I've not gone through a program.
Okay.
I do think, having brothers and, a bit of chaos around, I've always just been able to deal with a bit of chaos and keep cool with it. But it's also part of sports too, right? Like, being a leader, if you're down 3 runs and you got to come back, you gotta stay calm and cool in that situation. So I don't know where that necessarily comes from. And like my wife, who, there's something that happens at home, right? Something goes on and she's freaking, and I'm just, I don't know, I'm blessed to be wired that way, where I can stay
It is.
calm,
You
cool.
be grateful for that, because I was the exact opposite. And being in sports and competitive, that was not a good mix.
But
right?
I think as a leader, you need that bit of stoicness too.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I'm intentional about that though as well.
Right.
Like, I really try to be self-aware of the situation and stay calm when you need to. But I can definitely get fired up, right? And I think getting mad, I'm not a screamer and a yeller, right?
Yeah.
Like, people always ask me that quite a bit, right? Running a construction company and employees, and do you get mad? Absolutely, I get mad, but I'm very factual and very direct when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Right. You don't need to be.
You don't need to be.
Right.
Unless
most of the time
someone's doing something malicious, or that's really trying to get to my team in a negative, then I can switch a gear a little bit. But I really try to carry myself in a demeanor that's got a bit of stoicness to it, right? I don't know. Yeah. So I try to, but I'm intentional about it. I really try to, because there's times where I want to freak out, but I'm gotta stay even keel, right?
Yeah. That's good. I mean,
So I don't know where it came from, to be honest.
It's there, but at least you're cognizant and you want to keep it, right? You haven't lost it. So it's always been there. And that's what's made you probably a great leader, and why you've come into these leadership roles, those traits.
Honestly, the more I think about it, Todd, my dad's a really mellow guy, but when a decision needs made, it's like, let's go, right? But prior to that, and I think I have a bit of that in me as well. So.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, man. We could go on.
I know.
For hours, right?
Right. I really could, man. I appreciate this,
Yeah.
and I just keep bouncing ideas back and forth, because I'm learning as we sit here. I'm thinking through things and hearing you, and
I think
that's the beauty of it.
Right. That's the beauty, and the key is that you've embraced continuous growth.
That's it.
Right? And we all need that. We all need help. Yeah. We need to get off our island. We all need to realize that we can be better. We can be better. And when we're better and we take time for ourselves, we're better for everybody that we serve.
That's exactly right.
So we're better leaders, we're better parents, we're better coaches in whatever capacity that is. Like, we're just better. So the fact that you're embracing the journey, right, and continuous growth is awesome. And speaking of continuous growth, I know you're a big fan of podcasts and books. What book are you reading right now? And what would you recommend to our listeners? What's like one of your top books?
I mean, I have several books.
I know
now.
It's going to be a tough
one. And I've even
one.
tried to, and maybe this isn't, but I've tried to go a little bit more fictional.
Yeah, I've had a couple guests that have said that.
Tried to, because the nonfiction book, all the like the Simon Sinek stuff, and I'm a huge fan of Ryan Holiday. I know.
You turned me on to him. Yeah.
I just got his new book. I haven't read it yet. Discipline is Destiny.
Okay.
So his previous books about ego is the enemy. Some of those books are fantastic, and it's all Stoic driven. Ryan Hawk, I have his book, The Score That.
Oh yeah, The Score That Matters.
The Score That Matters. Not read that yet. So there's a couple in the waiting wings.
Gotcha.
I think you gave me the Marshall Goldsmith book.
What got you here won't get you there.
Exactly. So again, 3 or 4 of those stacked on my desk.
And you're gonna get another one today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Christmas is coming early.
Yeah, Shannon Lee. Be water, my friend.
Oh, is that right? Nice.
Yeah.
I don't have that.
You don't. That's one of my favorite. I'm actually reading it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through right now. So
you mentioned the Bruce Lee one too. That's intriguing.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Shannon Lee, his daughter. She wrote that.
Well, now I'm even more excited.
So
it's like I'm always trying to find something and to continue to improve on, man. How about you?
I'm reading Be Water, My Friend.
That's
and then
the
I
Bruce
just
Lee
got
one.
Scarcity Brain.
Oh, okay.
I think you told me. So Michael Easter, who
Okay.
was
Yeah,
on
he
Ryan
was
Hawk
on-
show.
right.
Oh, it was a great episode. So he's got 2 books.
That
Scarcity Brain.
podcast is amazing.
It is.
Ryan
Yeah,
Hawk
that guy, he's interesting.
I don't miss an episode.
No, every single one is solid. So yeah, I'm like 20 deep. I'm addicted to books. I'm addicted to buying them, I think, more than
I know. My wife.
I just can't find. I shouldn't. I can. I just. Yeah. I'm so busy right now. It's not my reading season. I'm learning, but fall's coming for us in the Midwest. Like, it's a great time to just wind down the evening. There's no FOMO. Like, it's so nice out. There's so many events. I can.
Yeah, it gets darker sooner,
curl up
earlier
with a book, on a weekend and not feel guilty that I'm missing out on something. So I'll get through. We had a conversation about the other day here at work. I'm trying a new mindset about books, and it's not about the quantity, it's the quality. I was like, I got a goal of 12 books, 15 books, 1 a month. I got to get through it, check. And I'm just trying to burn through them. Like, I'm not really comprehending it, and I'm not really taking it all in. So now I might get through half, but I got 10 pages of notes, because as I'm going through, I'm like literally manually taking notes, like a research, like I'm in school, and I'm learning so much more. So less, but I'm still buying them. So I still got a ton, but I gift a ton. Everybody that comes on the show gets a book. So I've done a lot of gifting of Robin Schwarma's book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, which I've told you about, and then you'll get the Be Water, My Friend. But no, man, this has been great. I love our conversations. I love you, man, and it's been a big inspiration for me. I'm grateful that you're part of my tribe, that we can have those. I look forward to that monthly breakfast, and I hope everybody can find that person or persons, that can help them, and just talk about the personal growth stuff. We're all learning, making mistakes and failing and iterating. If you can have an accountability partner or somebody just to toss ideas around, we all need help. Yeah. And it's okay to ask, or to have somebody to talk to. So this has been great, man. I'm so proud of what you've done, the company that you're building, the growth, and the leader that you've become. I think you're just a great person, mentor, somebody to look up to for what it's like to be a great leader.
I certainly appreciate our relationship. And you said something recently that you're 53 and just starting. And I think our relationship is just starting. And I can't wait to see what you do here with this podcast, and just you personally and your growth, and love being part of your tribe and you're part of mine. And we'll see what kind of fun we have in the future. Yeah. Hopefully we can play some catch. Let's do it. I got mitts and balls downstairs. Let's go. Come on.
we would probably be really sore the next day.
I know. I've been playing a little bit. My 13-year-old daughter is really into softball, so we've been.
I miss playing catch. You know, my daughter just
never
got
gets old.
Right. She just got that rebounder.
Oh.
For volleyball.
Okay.
She's going to try volleyball. And I text a picture to my dad. I said, "You remember this?" And he's in his 70s. I couldn't believe he said, "Yeah, you wore the hell out of that thing." Yeah. So as baseball, I would go in the backyard, talk about iterations, reps. I would throw against that thing just to play catch with myself all day, all night, and pop-ups and grounders. Like that little rebounder, it's really the same thing. It's pretty simple, right? Metal frame with a net. It was cool to bring back those memories. Yeah. And oftentimes I think we need to do that. We need to, part of reflection, to go back to a point in our childhood when we were so excited about something. And for me, it was baseball.
For sure.
If there was a rain out, if there was a rain out, I looked so forward to that. If there was a rain out, I would be so upset. I'd cry. Like, I just wanted to go compete. Yep. And the fact that I could do offense and defense, I was in it the whole game. It's just...
It's a great game.
It is a great game. And if you have patience, it can and I didn't. And so anyhow, there's plenty of that on most
stepping back, and reflecting,
but
and kind of
playing catch. Nothing like just
let's go play catch.
Playing catch. So anyhow, thank you, my friend.
Thank you
for being on the show. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You are on your way to growth, transformation, and joy. If you find this episode helpful, please like and share with your friends, and by all means, please leave us a review. You can also view the show notes and subscribe to the Bullet newsletter at toddbirch.com. Remember, real change takes time. Start small and watch that growth take shape.